Listen, I got my boy Maurice Good. He's on the line, all the way from New York City, all the way in what Brooklyn. You in Brooklyn today?
No, I'm in the Bronx
It,
today,
it-
good brother.
wow. Hey, man. You got homies in all the boroughs, man. All, hey, so hey, I'm excited tonight, man. And listen, we're gonna go right in. I mean, you know, we don't waste time here. You know, we don't waste time. Mo, man, you know, we was first. I just want to just say, you know, Father's Day is coming, and one thing that I know about Father's Day, in my opinion, um, is that sometimes Father's Day isn't marketed like that of Mother's Day, and due to our societal issues, there is a push beginning to be a push um, towards even Hallmark and places like that that do cards to really represent mothers in the role of a father, and saying Happy Mother's Day to mothers in that regard. And I'm not sure of the entire concept, but Maurice Good was just sharing that with me before we got on air, and I wanted to hit this Father's Day piece before we go into our later conversation about life after the death of a parent, and particularly the father and some of the issues that people have to deal with, or some of the emotional issues and things of that nature that people deal with in that regard. So, Mo, man, what we're just talking, man. What's going on?
So Hallmark, the humongous card company, they have a brand that's marketed to people of color called the Mahogany brand, right? Which is targeting the people of color, and so they have a card that says "Happy Mother's Day." Happy Father's Day, Mom. And so it's a hot topic, hot button topic, and so they then asked people what was their feedback. They would like feedback, because I guess they want to see whether or not they should continue to do this. And so the social media, some people think that it's a great idea because moms are filling the shoes of fathers, and then there's some who are saying, no, this is totally outrageous, that you would act, that you would do this, that they would promote this, and furthermore, that they would promote it and market it to the African American or the people ethnic community, because it's not part of their general brand, it's part of their Mahogany brand. So their marketing, they have a specific target, which is the community of color that they're promoting this concept with. And so some folks are in favor of it, some folks aren't. So I thought that I would definitely bring it to Holla at Me and see what our listeners have to say about it.
Wow, that's very interesting because I mean, yo, it's almost like it's just my opinion. I and trust me, I'm not Mr. Know It All or anything like that, but it's as if it's capitalism, kind of the state or the perception or the perceived state of the communities that face that challenge in terms of fatherlessness. And so, hearing that, it kind of brings mixed emotions because I mean, you want to give if your mother, if you've been raised by a single parent, in terms of your mother, you want to give her honor. You want to, you want to give her just due, but then at the same time, I don't know if my mom, even me growing up without my dad, I don't know if my mom could could be a dad to me. I just think she had to um, exhaust her strength in being more of who she was, if you will. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense, but I think she had to push harder instead of she really didn't get the breaks to say, okay, let me just chill and let my spouse kind of handle this right now. But instead, it's like I have to be on all the time, nonstop. And so to me, that can cause confusion because if you don't have both, um, parents in the home, then somebody's gonna have to carry that 100% of the load, if you will. So I don't know what you're thinking, Mo, but that's kind of what my mind is uh, thinking right now.
Some of the feedback that I read online was, some of the people. I read one comment where a young lady said she was raised by her mom, and that when people would say to her mom, Happy Father's Day, she said her mom would get very insulted because she knew that she was not this young lady's father, but indeed who she was, which was her mother. And so she felt like this young lady's mom felt like if you're going to honor me correctly, acknowledge me as her mom, and because I'm not her dad. And on the flip side, there are some women who said, especially when moms are raising boys, you have some moms who feel like, what? No, I am his mother and his father because I not only had to nurture him, but I also had to be the disciplinarian as well. And so for that reason, they feel like they are mom and dad, and so they should be recognized on both occasions. So it's a really interesting topic.
Wow. Wow. It is. I mean, it's getting tricky now. You know what I mean? Because it's like you've been force fed, and I'm believing that they're gonna make sales off of this.
Oh yeah.
I mean, people gonna buy into this. And meanwhile, back at the ranch, the tables are turning because there was another article you put out there about the misconception, right, of
Right.
of fathers, um, in in the black and brown communities.
So we've made humongous strides, and so what used to be, the numbers are showing aren't what they used to be. So more than any other group, any other counterpart, African American fathers are stepping up and being not only, are taking a more active role in their children's lives more than at any other time. And partially it's because a lot of these men have grew up without their fathers, and so they understand the trauma. They understand the trauma that comes with not having your father in your life, and so they're making a more concerted effort to do so. And so the numbers are now turning. And Charles Blow, who is a columnist for the New York Times, who writes an op-ed piece for the New York Times, he just did an article about, how based on the CDC's numbers that black men, in terms of engaging their children, are at the highest now. And then that was followed up with another article by the Root.com that says, that it's just that. It's a myth that the absentee black father is a myth, and more fathers are engaged. Where the conflict comes in is in terms of identification, right? Because traditionalists speak about marriage. And so what we have is you may have fathers who may not, you may have dads who are not married to mom, and they have their various reasons for why they're not married. Because some folks don't don't truly believe in the, in terms of marriage for various reasons. And so
Right.
they say, okay, that word cohabitate, they're cohabitating, they're raising these children together. They're just not married. And so because they're not married on paper, so now that it appears that mom is a single parent. Or you may have a situation where dad doesn't live in the household, but he's very active in his children's lives, and so he's very much there. However, traditionalists don't recognize his presence because he's not in the home, nor is he married, but he very much has a strong presence in the lives of his children. So that's why they said the myth of the absentee black father.
Hmm. So okay. You know, I can concur with you, man, on that. Because it's to me it's from what I'm seeing. I mean, it's I don't think we're where we want to be, but I most definitely see a lot more men concerned, especially like working at Youth Build, even the young men there. Just years ago, we've been working at Youth Build for almost 2 decades,
That's right.
and so just about 10 years ago, the mindset was a lot different with the young people that I've worked with concerning taking care of their children, their responsibility. Nowadays, young guys are actually bringing their kids to the sites, and
That's right.
we have family, and we try periodically to do family days and things like that, and when some of the young people bring their children in, you can tell that they're not faking. It's like they're not putting up a front, like, oh, I'm just want to show off my kids. Now you can actually see the discipline there. You can see the love and just those sorts of things, just kind of the natural affection that comes from both sides. And so the strides are happening. And I'm wondering if there's any statistics or even some studies being that's happening to show that, because I think we need to see that to show that progress is being made and steps are being made towards um, the betterment of our societal issues in terms of the fatherless academic. And but I think things like what we're doing is is helping to bridge the gap even more and strengthen the bridge. And you know what I mean? I think things like this and having those transparent conversations so that we can be strengthened for another breach, if you will. Maybe there, you know what I mean? Maybe something may come about to try to pull kind of the same thing, but a different method. And I think we have to be strengthened and and strengthening our homes and our families so that if something happen, whether you stand with your children or you get married to your girl or not, you able to still be there for your children, and that's real important. I
Absolutely.
was talking to a friend of mine, and and he said, you know what I'm gonna do? He just had his first child, and shout out to my boy PML. He said, man, I'm gonna get a crest for my family.
Mm.
I, that blew that split my way. I never heard that. I've heard kings and royalty they do, but he said I'm gonna get this is my first child. We've been wanting a child for years. I'm gonna get a crest designed specifically for my family. I'm out your way, Mo.
No, I mean, I'm listening to you, and like when you think about the depth of 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 just that thought that you know he's thinking in terms of legacy, and that's more than anything. That's what we need our fathers to think about. What is going to be the legacy of this family, because that legacy is the foundation and the blueprint for all of the generations that will follow. And so as I shared on previous shows, like with my son, talking to him about the importance of his last name. Like when you walk out of here, when you're in school, you carry that last name. People will call you. Of course, they will call you by your first name, but they also going to recognize your last name.
Right.
How do they recognize your last name? Do they recognize your last name with disdain, or do they recognize your last name with respect,
Wow.
honor? With respect and honor. Like when they say your last name, does it make them smile, or does it make them roll their eyes or twitch their face? When they hear that name,
Wow.
and we have it in every community. That family, right? Who every summer, from grandmom down to little baby JoJo, they out there scrapping. And when you
Wow.
hear that name of that family, people like rolling the eyes, like, nah, I don't want no dealings with them.
Wow.
So like helping our young people to understand that name that they have has value, and you either going to add value or you're going to devalue. You
Wow.
know, so, so I think that those are some of the things that we as fathers we have to do in conjunction with mom.
Wow.
Mom and dad
Come
have to
on,
have this
man.
conversation. You know, so yeah, me and mom don't necessarily see eye to eye. I hurt her. I hurt her badly because you know we were together, and I had another child on her. Because I heard a story recently where it made me just blew the top of my head off. Where this brother, he was with this woman, and they had a 1 month old, and this 1 month old ended up having like four more siblings that were all born within like 2 weeks, within 2 weeks after that first child. And
Hmm.
so that woman was, she's still hurting. And her children that she had with this man are now in their mid 20s, and she still is still hurting because of the deceit and and the betrayal. And I was like, wow, that's deep.
Wow. I was uh I'm trying to I have a psychiatrist that's actually trying to get him to free a schedule up to come on to help us um through these issues and really bring the language and the studies to the table. But um I was talking to somebody, and actually lately I've kind of talked to several people that lost their fathers, um, and maybe through sickness. Several of the people that I've spoken with lost their fathers to violence. Um, Even one of my superiors lost his father to violence when he was before he was 1 years old. He was about 3 4 months, and his mother and father were married. And so and in my next book that I'm writing called The Nine Nuggets of Reconnection, What If I Had a Father, The Nine Nuggets of Reconnection, I'm most definitely doing my research to really come at this and how I'm grappling with how people deal with this whole issue of loss, um, and then how it's affecting um, the parent that's left. Just in this case, the father has died or been murdered or whatever, and the mother is left to raise a son that's hurting. In fact, my best friend was murdered almost 2 years ago. I think it's about 2 years ago now, and he left behind about 8 children. I want to say four of which were his biological, but he remarried and had I think they combined about 10 kids or so. But the pain that's in that family, and the children's eyes, you can just see the pain. And so, a real good friend of mine, like a sister to me, I haven't spoken to her in years about this because it's kind of hard to bring up. Her mother was murdered years ago. Her mother was murdered. Her brother was murdered, and her mother and brother, they didn't have nobody else. You know what I mean? Father, I don't think the dad was actively engaged at all. And so just that pain, right? Mo, can you just kind of just lay a backdrop on this? And I mean, because I just want to really discuss this issue, and then we just kind of see what happens.
Okay. Well, oftentimes, um, oftentimes people do not receive the time that they need, right? In terms of grieving, right? Because there is like, what is a prescription? What is the proper prescription for grieving of a loss of a loved one, right? What is there is none, right? Each person is different when it comes to the grieving process, you know, and that process, we're talking about being able to process your life without this person who means so much to you and they're no longer there in the physical form. And so, and then especially when they are taken away from you in a violent manner and they're still young. And so all of that can be so overwhelming that you don't even know how to begin the process to be able to breathe. So now what happens is all of that pain turns to anger. And that anger will turn into rage. And so let's say let's say for a woman who have lost her son and lost her husband, because I know of a situation where this lady lost, matter of fact, she lost two sons and her husband all to gun violence, and she lost them in a matter of 4 months apart. So within 4 months, she lost her two sons and her husband to gun violence. How do you begin to process that?
Wow. 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 I was sitting here thinking about this because these, to me, I don't claim to be anybody's expert. But what I do believe with all my heart is that we do not have healthy dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have enough healthy dialogue, so people hold this pain in. Um, you know, my best friend when he passed, I actually just went fishing, took his one of his sons fishing with me. We went fishing for about 3 days. We do this fishing trip every year, and I we eased into the conversation. I didn't jump right out the gate on day one, but we just kind of had some hours we were spending out there in the water fishing in our waders. And he's actually his stepson, but he said that man meant more to me than my biological father, and that hit me. That hit me because, like you said, different strokes for different folks. And so I'm like, wow, okay. I mean, like my life, I always wanted my my biological father to be there, but this is kind of reverse. And so when he died, a part of him was lost. Not only did they lose their father, but their mother was in a crippling automobile accident. So this family, in my opinion, along with many families out there, I'm just kind of case studying this family, dealing with issues that you haven't had the chance to grieve, and maybe there's ways to grieve properly. I don't know. When I read the Grief Recovery Handbook by John James and Russell Friedman, they were talking about um, things that cause grief. Like for a child, if their gerbil Johnny dies, and they like, Mom, Johnny died, and mom and dad may say, okay, I just get you another one. No, but I want Johnny.
Right.
You know what I mean? To other people, it's just Johnny. It's just a gerbil. But to me, it's Johnny. Because we had a connection. And when that connection is broken, because I lost my mother, and I missed that woman because I felt like it was more in her. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like she was on her deathbed. She 90 years old. She done lived her life. My mom still had a good 30 years. You know what I mean? But when I'm looking at these young people and then just people in general, even people at my church, I'm like, Lord, how do I help them? You know what I mean? How can I can't replace them, anything like that. How can I be a part of their lives to help them emotionally? So when I was reading reading this book, and I recommend it to anybody, really everybody, because you're gonna lose something one day. And so it started naming stuff like that. Like people grieve when they get divorced, or somebody's been raped. There's different types of pain, but the grief still remains. To what degree it differs from like a person's level of tolerance, if you will, and their environment. You know what I mean? And because sometimes you can be around a bunch of hurt people, and hurt people.
That's right.
So so then they start talking about stirbs, and I know I mentioned this before, but I'm trying to take my time a little bit. Stirbs are short-term energy relieving behaviors. And I'm a firm, and I really thank God for Bishop Joy Johnson, Dr. Ari Vernon, for introducing the grief recovery handbook to the grief recovery process. Because, I didn't know that I was leading and bleeding.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like I'm thinking I'm just this dude. I'm out here. I'm doing my thing. I'm traveling. I'm working. But I was leading, and I was bleeding on people. Even through my preaching, I was preaching through my pain.
That's right.
And so once I start understanding the stirbs, and then start writing my own stirbs down, um, some of the stirbs just workaholic, isolation, sex, uh, shopaholic, drugs, alcohol abuse, just different things like that people use to cope with their pain. And so my book is really my grief recovery letter, because through my writing, I was able to start a process of healing. I let a lot out. Well, it was times I was writing, Brother Mo, and I couldn't even see because the tears were just running so hard down my face. I couldn't even stop crying because, but I was getting it out. You know what I mean? So I say all that to say is it showed me how to detect when there's something wrong. Not so much that okay, I'm gonna be able to fix it, but it was helping me recognize and manage my emotions. And I'm not saying I'm the master of my emotions or anything like that. I want to be, you know what I mean? But I was able to recognize these issues and say, you know what, this is a disturb. Let me go and try something else because I'm trying to mask my pain with this. And so when I look at the young people that I'm dealing with that's lost loved ones, especially in terms of fathers and and mothers, if you will, even just somebody in general, but just our show we really deal with fathers issues. But I've seen young people take it out on mom,
That's right.
and mom is like giving them a lot of leeway because mom is hurting too. So I'm trying to help you, and I'm hurt.
That's right.
And so Mo, I don't know what's on your mind with this, but I'm just this is where my mind is right now.
And you said something that is so powerful that I don't think a lot of people truly understand, right? And what you said was being able to recognize that is when you're in a position that you can recognize it, that's where your empowerment comes from.
Wow.
And so that's the key. That's the key that's going to unlock all of those doors. The having the power to recognize it. Hey, I see I'm getting ready to go into this downward spiral. Or I see that, I'm getting ready to isolate myself, or, I'm getting ready to engage in some risky behavior, right? And then being able to work your way through it. So being able to recognize it is so important. And for some of us, and I would go out on a limb and say for a lot of us, right, we're not in that place where we recognize it. And so we engage in activities to heal that pain or at least masquerade it, not even so much to heal it, because we get to a place in life where we know what we're doing isn't going to heal it, but at least we can mask it until we're ready to deal with it.
Right.
And for some of us, we never get to that place where we're ready to heal. And so we continue to consume alcohol. We continue to get into unhealthy relationships and so forth because we never prepare ourselves to get to that place where we can heal.
One of my stirs when my mom passed, a couple of my stirs, one of my stirs was a workaholic and isolation. I didn't want to be around people. But another one of my stirs, now people gonna question this. I I try to church it out. I try man, I try to church my pain out. I was at every service. If somebody had a church service going on, I wasn't dealing with my problems. I just was just I don't know. I was just boom, like losing my mom, losing my brother. I mean, when my brother passed away, I mean, I try to hang out at the bowling alley, get out and go hang out. Man, I would bust out in tears in the vestibule and just be on the floor balling, grown man balling. Got the whole bowling alley just looking like, man, this guy, what's going on with this guy? Is he drunk? Is he messed up? No, I was hurt and I couldn't. It was too much for me.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And but let me read this piece in my book, man. I want to read this piece and I call this piece, and if you don't got my book, What If I Had a Father, you need to check that out. You need to get it right now. Go to deanbooks.com and order your copy. But this piece is called Daddy, You Called Him. And I start out by saying, let's be real. Some people have missing branches on their trees because those branches were ripped off suddenly. These are people who, at an early age, suffered the death of their father. It is truly a tragedy to lose a father who once was involved and engaged in your life. The involved father was at the hospital when you were born. Your first words was dada because his presence was felt. He kissed you on your forehead and told you he loved you. His tight, gripping hug left a sweet smelling scent of his favorite cologne in your nostrils for hours. He inspired you to take your first step. He was with you all night while you were teething. He taught you how to tie your shoes. He did not withhold from correcting you when you needed to be disciplined. When you broke your leg, he was the first at the hospital. He took the training wheels off your bicycle because he knew you didn't need them anymore. He was your biggest fan when you played in the Pee Wee Football League. In fact, he shouted and cheered when you scored your first touchdowns, as if it as if your Pee Wee team was his favorite pro team and you were winning the Super Bowl. He came to your cheerleading competitions and recitals, and he sat with you in your class during your first day of preschool. He brought gifts and cupcakes to your kindergarten class on your birthday. He was there for you. He wasn't ashamed of you. He even named you. He never ever neglected a moment to shower his love towards you. Daddy, you called him. Boom! Then one day he was gone from the face of the earth as a result of some terminal illness, murder, suicide, or accident. Suddenly, you had only memories of the times you shared with him. And I don't know what you think about that, and there's more to that I want to read a little later, but I mean that right there to me is people that's dealing with this and may deal with it in the future. It's a shock. And Mo, I don't know what you're thinking right now, but I'm gonna get out your way.
Oh man, it's so powerful because like I mean, it's like having, let's say Michael Jordan, right? So you're a Michael Jordan fan, and Michael signed a pair of sneakers for you, right? And you look at those sneakers every day, and you touch them, and then all of a sudden, those sneakers get destroyed in a fire.
Hmm.
No matter how many pair of Jordan sneakers you will get after those, there is no replacing those. And that's what you're talking about. Like having such a presence because it's all about building memories, right? And so you building memories with this person and you adore them and love them and you look up to them and you cherish your time with them. And then they're gone. I'm gonna share with you something that like the judge the judge who sentenced me to prison, I wrote him years later, right? And to tell you the truth, I didn't expect for this man to write back, but he wrote back. And from there, I would write him periodically just to let him know what I was doing. And he would always have an encouraging word. Um, a few times he had told me that my letters had lifted his spirits because he had sentenced, and this was an African American judge, male, and he had talked about how there was a few times I lifted his spirits because he had just sentenced another young man to life and for taking a life, and he didn't know how his spirits were down. But when he read the letter about me getting my GED and me going to college and all of this stuff, right? And so that was our relationship. And he came out to this event that they had for me, and I mean, our relationship just evolved, right? And I saw him as father figure, someone that I respected tremendously. And so then, after I had my son, I write to him. I write to him, and so, but something told me in my spirit to call his clerk, and so I called the clerk, and because he had retired, but he was working part time on the bench, and so I called the clerk, and she says to me, "Oh, I'm sorry to inform you, he passed away."
Hmm.
And all I could do, it was such a shock to my system because that never ever crossed my mind that this man would pass away because he had become that type of presence in my life. It never crossed my mind. And mind you, at this time, I'm 37 years old.
Wow.
And it never crossed my mind that this man would someday pass away. And so, like, when this lady told me that, I'm sorry to inform you, he passed away. My whole system, my body just it just shut down. And like I was like, thank you. And I just left it at that and I hung up. And then like maybe 3 days later, out of the blue, I'm walking and I just started crying.
Wow.
And I was trying to figure out why I was crying, so I kind of dipped behind a wall trying to hide from people, like going on, you know. And I realized that he had crossed my mind in like a New York second, and it just made me start crying. And then I found the letter that I was writing to him, and like man, and so when people when they have such a presence in your life, right? And and I tell people, you don't have to be blood.
Right. You don't.
You don't have to be blood for someone to have such a presence in your life that make you want to be a better person.
Wow.
You
Wow.
know, and so that's it. It's like, again, how do we process that? How do you begin to process the loss? Because it's not just a matter of, okay, I lost someone. In the process of you losing someone, you lost a lot. You didn't just lose a person, but you lost everything that that person represented to you and everything that you felt about that person, right? That's what we assume that we've lost.
Wow.
There will be no more. There will be no more conversation. There will be no more laughing. You know, there will be no more us laughing and joking amongst each other. There will be no more us breaking bread together and fellowship. All in our mind, all of that is gone, and it is gone in the physical form. And so, therefore, you feel all of that all at once.
Wow. Wow. And that's listening to you, man. I'm reflecting because I know we're talking about specifically about fathers. Kind of mentioned my mother and some other folk, but there's many. There's several people that play that type of role in my life that I didn't think they were going to die. Um, and I don't know if it's something you want to prepare you like. I don't think it's like, okay, let me prepare myself for this. I don't think it's a case let's prepare for it.
Right,
I think it's a case of living and learning and doing, enjoying as much as you can during your lifetime with that individual versus saying, let me think about, okay, one day he might die. Then that, to me, that's a miserable life.
right,
But if I can, learn and gain and be better and be challenged and be disciplined by this individual, I so when that person um, is gone or leaves this world, then there's a mark that's been left in my spirit. When I think about people like Pastor Caldwell, Clarence Caldwell, that when I was a young boy, um, there were some things that I wanted to write more about him in my book, but I can't give everything out in the first book. But he had one of the most powerful impacts on me. I mean, I was a young boy, 10, 12 years old, and he took me under his wing. And years later, after just kind of, I was at church every Sunday, and part of the reason was because of him. He treated me like family. I cut hair back in those days to survive. And I would cut his hair. Old man let me cut his hair, his son's hair, and his grandson's hair, and I was only charging $2-3 a head back then. Man, he would hand me a $50 bill, ball it up in my hand. I wouldn't even open it up until I get in the house, and he would just look at me and say, "Take care of your brothers and sister," and it'd be a 50 when I open it up. Um, when I started homing in on my drumming skills, he would come over to my house in the church van that don't got no letters on it or nothing like that, just an old beat up van that the church doing its best to have,
That's right.
and said, "Mike, I got a new drum set in here. I want you to come over my house and play it and set it up." And I would go over his house and kill, what I mean, for hours, and he'll always say something to me. He would say things like, one of his quotes, he would say is like, "What good does it do to know if you don't do no good with what you know?"
Mm. Can you repeat that?
What good does it do to know if you don't do no good with what you know?
Mm. Mm.
And that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, so when I leave, I'm not only gonna leave my kids and my family some money, I'm gonna leave them inspired. Mm. Cause they gonna look and say, "Daddy wouldn't mind me grieving, but Daddy, I know he's saying you still gotta live your life."
That's right.
And sometimes, you know, people when they deal with things like this, they have no outlet. They have um just kind of the experiences I've seen. They have no outlet. They have just the right climate of associates that can help handle their hurt. Because sometimes people get hurt and go through grieving process, and people say, "Just get over it."
Right.
What? It's be strong. What if I don't want to be strong right now?
That's right.
What if Moses, Joshua had time to grieve when Moses died? Can I get to, what I mean? Jesus
That's right.
wept. You know, I mean, Jesus even grieved. So come on, give me a break. So, so when Pastor Caldwell died, it was like, wow, I can't believe it. I can't believe this. And my hope, and if my dad is listening to this, man, and if you die before me, I hope that you leave him with something and that I can cry for you.
Mm. Wow. Wow. And you when you think about it, like oh man, life is so deep. It's so life is so simple, but it's also so deep because really, if you think about it, for the most part, we just want to be able to fellowship with the people we love. And and I tell people, you got to understand what it means to fellowship. If if we're playing Uno, or we're playing what's the game with the colors on the floor? The board game with the Twister.
Right,
Twist,
Twister.
right? That's fellowship. If we're having a meal and we're going around the table and we cracking jokes that's fellowship. Even if we at the ball game and you know what, we're gonna share this fight. That's fellowship. And so that's what we have to do. We have to do more fellowship with the people that we love. And it's difficult because life is happening, bills need to be paid, we have all these responsibilities. And so how do you fellowship and take care of the business?
Wow. Man, I can't wait till Sunday. Mo, I mean, wow. I can't wait till Sunday. I mean, this right here, this is a real powerful show. I mean, really, this is not even a show right now. This is ministry. I mean, somebody's being ministered to right now. And just talking about it, we're not even talking solution, what you should do, and the 5 steps to this and 5 steps to that, 12 steps to this. No, man, I'm just getting it. I'm comfortable with expressing my feelings.
That's right.
Like when my mom died, I mean, I was whew, it hurt. I was like, whoa. But I knew in my heart I couldn't give up.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, if I would have gave up, then we wouldn't be having this show.
That's right.
If I would have gave up, my book wouldn't have been written. If I gave up, me and you wouldn't have connected. Let me read this part, man, so we can because this right here, I'm trying to hold back my tears. I'm a boy, David. But I want to hit this because when I wrote this, man, this was to me, this was one of those moments that really hit me, and I was trying to set the stage for the rest of the book, and just for the issue at hand. I wrote. Sometimes you think back when you remember when he had spanked you for acting out in school, or when he punished you for not doing your daily chores on time. But since he passed, even the bad times don't seem so bad. You may be reading this and thinking to yourself, I miss my dad. Those are real feelings. And while you hold those memories in your heart, imagine, I imagine that your thoughts grapple and twist, wondering how life would be if he had survived that illness, that sickness, or that tragedy. So the challenge for you then becomes how to deal with the varying and collective thoughts of the could-haves, the would-haves, and the should-haves. You may even wrestle with guilt inside. You may have thoughts of regret. I wish I could take back what I said to him before he passed. I could have behaved better in school. I should have completed my chores in a timely manner. I could have been a better son or a daughter. Why? Why did my daddy die? Why did God take him away from me? Why? I needed more time with him. I need him. I need you. Daddy. I have a boyfriend now that I'm not sure about, Daddy. I'm trying to use what you taught me, but I wasn't giving you I wasn't giving you my undivided attention when you were here. What was it you told me to watch out for with boys again? Daddy, I need you. Daddy, I'm stuck. I'm confused. I'm hurt. The pain is irrefutable. My right has become my left, and my left has become my right. My ups has become my downs, and my downs have become my ups. Daddy, if you can hear me, and I hope you can, please forgive me. I hope you are like an angel. Give me little signs. Let me know that you are watching over me. And God, if you let my daddy come back, I promise to do right. If he was here, I would at least receive some type of comfort to deal with my issues. Daddy, can you hear me? If you have experienced this kind of dialogue with God, no doubt you have also experienced tears flooding your eyes like the great flood in the days of Noah. Dealing with the death of a loved one is something that is hard to talk about. It takes time to recover, if there's a such thing. My thoughts and prayers are with anyone who has lost a parent. And my hope is that you have a strong support system and that you can be transparent to someone about your real feelings. And when you are having a moment, let it out. And the pain can eat you alive. And if you don't deal with the hole in your soul, then the pain remains. Mo, I know we're gonna have to close out in a second, but man, I feel like you got something to say.
Wow. Oh man. And wow. And that's exactly it. I think the solution. You hit the solution. You hit it out the park, which is being able to let it out, finding time, let it out. Do not hold on to it. It's all right. People need, and I think that's part of the problem is that so many of us have toxic people in our lives, in our inner circle that, going back to that statement, get over it. I lost somebody, and you don't see me acting like that.
Hmm.
Moved on. Well, did you really move on?
Wow.
Because it sounds like you're still holding on to something. And it sounds like you're transferring all of that pain to someone else. So for those for those of us who have lost somebody that we truly care about, being able to say, you know what, I need to be there for myself. That's not being selfish. Let me be very clear, ladies and gentlemen. It's not being selfish to find time for yourself so that you can heal.
Wow. Wow. If you don't put that on Facebook, Sister Nancy, we're gonna have problems. Say that one more time. I don't think the people heard you.
It's not being selfish to find time so that you can heal.
Wow. Wow. And I can't one thing I can't neglect during my process of healing, and I don't want to say that like, okay, I'm totally healed from my mother and my brother passing away. Even my stepfather, I low key miss him too. That was my dog. Growing up, we wasn't, we didn't have the best relationship. But once I became an adult and both of us had, matured in our own ways, he was my dad. You know what I mean? So I most definitely miss Big Marv. Um, but man, I can't, you know, I can't say that sometimes I don't still cry. I can't say sometimes I watch a movie and it's hitting so hard. And it could be, man, it could be a goofy movie, man, but it just had that one moment that remind me of my mom or something. You know what I mean? I, you, I'm still dealing with it, and I don't know if you can ever get over um, the hurt, if you will. But for me, I didn't let it stop me from being productive. And somehow, some way, to me, I had a good boss that gave me the time to grieve and, gave me space, but also um, encouraged me. Not just being around the right people to handle me with care because I'm fragile. And I think for me it was like uh, I was a package that had fragile written on it. So the way you deal with me, you can't say certain jokes. I can't say mama jokes no more. Your mama so this, we can't do that. We might be fighting. But so all those things, having the right people, but then I God gave me peace. Like I can't. I know I'm talking all the technical things, just the emotional aspect, but the spiritual aspect came in and through the Holy Spirit really helped me to come to grips with the reality that this happens and that life after death, some people don't believe in heaven or hell. That's a whole nother conversation. However, it's not in my hands no more. And sometimes I think sometimes the grief and the hurt comes from what I can't fix. This is something, especially when you kind of the Mr. or Mrs. Fix It, and you the one that's always encouraging people. You the one that got to be strong for everybody, but now it's your turn.
That's right.
So, and many people I know, not many, but there's people that I know and people that may be listening. You may know somebody out there that's dealing with something, that's dealing with what we're talking about. I mean, Mo gave some good points. I gave some points. Um, we don't want to say we the end all be all, but I found strength and support through the people God put around me. I stayed active. One of the things that I put in my book, um, when my brother passed away, and I'm gonna close with this. My brother, it's in my book. I'm not gonna get the details, but one of my brothers was murdered, and then my oldest brother was shot 4 times a month later. Boy, I was in a mess, Mo. I was in a mess. I was in a mess because I prayed when my brother Rodney died. I was at the scene of the crime, and I had all the faith in the world to raise him up. That I really in all my heart I was gonna be like, get up in the name of Jesus, and he was gonna get up. I had that much faith. I mean, you talking about a dude that God used to stop rain. And I know at that moment I was gonna tell him to get up, and God said no, and it hurted me. Like this is kind of probably the first time I ever even speaking about this on this level. And God's like, no, I'm not letting you. So I was kind of had a beef with God because it was like God was holding me back because he knew I was going to use my faith and he was going to have to do it.
That's right.
And so I said, okay, God. I said, if something like this happened to any of my siblings again, Lord, at least let them stay alive long enough so I can get to the hospital to lay hands. I wish you would. I wish I'd have said any of my friends too. And I get to the hospital, my oldest brother barely made it. He got shot 4 or 5 times, point blank range. And I was like, what? So I tried to church it out. Remember I told you I went to church. Bishop Noel Jones was preaching. One of my favorite preachers. I mean, this dude is my homiletic hero. I mean, next to Jakes and Ari Vernon and Ron Carpenter and Stephen Furtick and Dr. Walter. I mean, the list goes on. Bishop Davis, Apostle Dudley, I just got a lot of homiletic heroes. And he was preaching breakout. And it just hit me because he stepped up on the stage, right? He looked up on the stage and he said, "This is Moses." And he looked up as if Moses was looking up at the mountain. And then he ran up the stage and looked down. And when he looked down, he said, "This is God looking at your situation." He said, Moses and God sees your situation from two different views. I said, "Oh my goodness." So make a long story short, service is over. I'm hanging out with my boy Norman Watkins. Shout out to Norman Watkins. He was working security, and I was buying all the tapes, and I mean, I'm buying every last TD Jake tape and series and video. I mean, I was literally going broke buying all the Noel Jones stuff. I mean, I probably spent $150 just to buy. I didn't want to hear no singing. I wanted all preaching. I just needed encouragement. So I told a lady that was working at the desk, if I said, "Can I give you a prayer request to give to Bishop Noel Jones? So whenever y'all leave hotel or plane or anything like that, he can just say a quick prayer for me." You know what I mean? And Mo, I was preaching back then. I was a preacher. You know what I mean? I was a young minister, but I was,
That's right.
and I was in the will of God, and she said, "No, I'll go get him right now." But he was actually talking to a group of young ministers about different books and stuff, talking about Paul Tillich and things like that, and some of the things that he used to study because they had him in a circle, and he actually spent time talking to people. And he turned around and said, because when he was talking, I listened to so many of his tapes. I felt like I didn't have to look at him. I went to sleep on come forth. I went to sleep on God's gonna make, all these different. So make a long story short, Noel came to me and he said, "How can I help you? What can I pray for you for?" And told him what happened to my brother Rodney and to my older brother that was shot. Because while I was going to church and seeking help through word and prayer and stuff, other people were seeking help in other ways. Whole nother conversation.
Absolutely.
My story was God. And so Noel said, "Oh my goodness," I'm paraphrasing. "I never went through nothing like that in my life. I'm so sorry for you." He prayed for me. It wasn't a long prayer. He wasn't speaking in tongues. He wasn't slobbering and running huckamashanda. He straight up, all right, da 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 da. He prayed for me, shook my hand, gave me a hug, and I walked away. A month later, he came out with a sermon series called "God is Gonna Make You Laugh." And this particular subtopic was, you gotta go through it. Man, he said a couple statements he said, and I'm out. He said, I had hell to pay, with his raspy voice, and said, "You gotta go through it." And then he came and said, and this was like the commercial of it. This was like he had a little sneak preview, and it was like he was sending me a message. Like he was preaching. You know how people say, "Oh, he preaching to me." No, I know for a fact Noel was talking directly to Mike Dean. He said, "Your brother's death
Mm.
is going to help you keep somebody else's child alive. You gotta go through it." Woo! And man, it sent chills. I mean, it just reverberated through my whole to the marrow in my bones. Everything quaked. And I just fell to my face and cried. And that gave me the strength to go encourage other young cats that was in similar situations. I don't know why I said all that.
I know we gotta go, but I just have
Please.
to ask you,
Okay.
right, for that brother, for that sister who do not have the support, right? They don't have a kind boss who will give them the time off aside from what is required by law. They don't have boyfriends and girlfriends. They don't have a strong support system who can lift them up in prayer, during their time of sorrow. What would you suggest to them in terms of grief recovery? How do they find a way to grieve properly when their support system is pulling them towards hell?
This is what I'm going to say, because I didn't give you the whole story. But let me say this. This is what I firmly believe. I believe that God will always send you somebody. You just got to be able to recognize who that somebody is. And sometimes it's just pieces from different people. You can't. I don't think one person can fill the whole void or put the pieces to the whole puzzle. But I did, when my brother died, I did have people say, "Whatever you want to do." You know what I mean? And I knew these cats were strapped. I mean, I had several people in my life that different people from different crews and stuff that I knew. And at this time I was preaching.
That's right.
So I was hurt, but I didn't have the spirit of vengeance on me. Cause I believe, like the Bible says, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, and I shall repay. So people like you said that don't have the support system, that's hard. I pray that if somebody's listening right now and they don't have the support system, that God opens their eyes to get the help they need and seek it. Because sometimes if you don't have the person or the people, then you may have to go seek it. and believe that God will provide for you. And that is recovering from grief doesn't, in my opinion, it's not an overnight process. But one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible, when Moses died, he said, Moses, my servant, is dead. But arise. You know what I mean? Joshua was grieving. They had this thing called the mourning period where they grieved at least 30 to like 60 days or so. But he said, Joshua, you got I'm paraphrasing, you got a whole nation to lead. He said, just like I was with Moses, I'm going to be with you. Wow. And he said, whatever the sole of your foot tread upon is yours. The Message Bible says every square inch you step is yours. So in other words, you still have a work to do. I know you hurt. I know you bleeding, but don't give up on what you have. You have a nation to lead. Right now, we speaking to nations. We're not just speaking to people in the United States. This is to nations. Right. People over in Africa feeling us, don't just getting up in the morning and they turning this on like I can't give up. They saying it in Swahili. They saying it in Chinese. We can't give up. Now, I ain't gonna say get over it, but I can say don't give up. If you could just hang in there, you know what I mean? If you could just crawl your way to church or crawl your way, if you got to crawl your way to work, you know, if you got to cry all the way to work and when you walk to your cubicle, you dry your tears, you still got somebody to help. You still got kids to feed. You still got things to do. It's not an easy process. It's not an easy process. To me, if you connected to somebody like you talked about earlier, that connection, it'll never be easy. But it's worth hanging in there because eventually somebody's gonna go through it and they're gonna need your strength. Like when after my brother died, years later, one of my other brother's best friend got murdered. My mom had to be there for his mom. Ain't that something? So my mom understood this is serious. So my passion for people that deal with that kind of stuff, especially like if I know them, even if I don't know them, if I'm just involved in some capacity, it's gonna hit me. And I'm gonna handle it with care. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't know if I answered your question, but I will say, you know, nowadays there are people that will help you in different areas, and sometimes you just gotta ask for it and say, look, you even tell your boss, like, look, I'm gonna be as productive as I can, but right now I'm really like, you gotta be transparent. Right now I'm not in the mood to be joking. I'm gonna work. You know what I mean? I need help. You know, if you know of any resources that can help me, you know, that can get me help. If you go to a church, you know, hey, look, talk to the pastor. If your church is too big where the pastor is kind of like not hands on, go to a leader that you can get to and say, hey, I need help. Whether you in the corporate arena, spiritual arena, no matter where you are, somebody in your family that you can talk to. You might not be able to tell them everything, but you know, just try something. You know what I mean? Try something, and you'll stumble into something if you try. Mo, I don't know what you're thinking, but you got any last thoughts?
I knew you had the answer. That's what I knew.
And I praise God, man, because this is something I'm real passionate about. And wow, what a great conversation, man. And I really appreciate you for coming on and having this tough conversation with the nations with us. So, hey, listen, I know you out there. Listen, I pray that God bless you and that you get the help and encouragement you need. And listen, we'll see you next week. All right. God bless you. Holla at me.